So if I'm a general, where's my army?
You're looking at it, I'm afraid.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Hello, Internet. I'm Omnivorous, and I'm back again with another Universes Beyond Deck Tech. Since we've got the next season of Fallout coming out, I figured we'd look at one of my favorite commanders from the set, Preston Garvey Minuteman. Preston Garvey Minuteman is a 4/4 human soldier for 2 red, green, and white. He has, at the beginning of combat on your turn, create a green aura enchantment token named Settlement attached to up to 1 target land you control. It has Enchant Land, and Enchanted Land has tap for 1 mana of any color. Whenever Preston Garvey Minuteman attacks, untap each enchanted permanent you control. So we're going to be hitting our lands up with some enchantments with Preston Garvey, but really one of the great things about this is it gives all of our creatures a pseudo kind of vigilance because they go to attack, and then if Garvey is attacking with them, he gets to untap everybody that's enchanted. So the very first thing this deck's gonna need is creatures to put enchantments onto.
Minutemen? So now I'm traveling backward in time?
Protect the people at a minute's notice.
It would be amiss not to mention the Vixens Pearl Ear and Light Paws. Both of them are amazing. With Pearl Ear, you get a discount on your aura spells for all the other auras that are in play, and Light Paws lets you go through your deck every time you cast an aura and put an aura with lesser cost onto her. One of the weaknesses of auras is that they die with the creature that they're attached to when that creature gets killed. To mitigate this, we're gonna use a few creatures like Maisie, True Sword Paladin, Cass, Hand of Vengeance, and Yuna, Hope of Spira. Maisie buffs enchanted creatures that attack your opponents, but more importantly, she's going to exile auras that die and let you recast them from exile the next turn. Cass circumvents having to pay all that mana bullshit and just puts the auras that die with creatures back onto the battlefield attached to another creature you control. And Yuna reanimates a enchantment at the beginning of each end step, but also will give a buff to your enchantment creatures, which we have a few of that will be relevant. Having our creatures overcome the biggest problem with auras is really great and all, but there's nothing compared to pure power like Calyx. Calyx, Guided by Fate, is a 2/2 for 1 green and white that has Constellation. Whenever Calyx, Guided by Fate, or another enchantment creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Whenever Calyx or an enchanted creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may create a token that's a copy of non-legendary enchantment you control. Since most of our creatures are gonna be enchanted, it's not hard to trigger him. He's gonna get things bigger and he's gonna copy all of our best enchantments. As always, one of the strongest things that you can ever do in Commander is draw cards, and it's really easy to do in Enchantress. Sithis, Harvest Hand, and Armory Paladin both give us card advantage when we cast our auras. Sithis draws and gains a life, and Armory Paladin exiles the top card when you cast an aura or equipment, and you can play it until the next turn. The better option are cards that draw when things enter instead of when they are cast, so we have Tanglespan Lookout and Setessan Champion for that. The Lookout's nice, but it only triggers when we hit auras on the battlefield. With Setessan Champion though, we get it anytime any enchantment enters, and then it gets bigger. And of course there's things like Enchantress's Presence. Enchantress's Presence is good to note because it's not a creature, so it's harder to remove and will stick around giving you that perpetual card engine. Alright, now let's look at what we're going to be hitting our creatures with when it comes to awesome auras.
Anyone else feel a trifle queasy? What? Do I have a boogie?
The best auras are gonna be those auras that pump up equal to the number of auras. That confusing? Let's talk about it. Eidolon of Countless Battles has Bestow, so it can be an aura itself, enchanted onto another creature, and then when that creature dies, it falls off. Eidolon of Countless Battles giving the creature enchants aura itself +1/+1 for each creature and aura you control, meaning this guy gets big and he can give the creature he enchants a big ol' buff. That's similar to Strongback, which gives +2/+2 for each aura and equipment attached to the creature it's enchanting. It also gives a discount of 3 for the aura spells, making it a lot easier to pile up the auras on the enchanted creature. And of course there are classics like All That Glitters that give +1/+1 +1 for each artifact and or enchantment you control. So it is just another one of those that keeps getting bigger every time we attack. Some other great options are auras that bring themselves back from the grave, like Rancor and Griff's Boon. Rancor gives enchanted creature +2/+2 and has trample. When Rancor is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return it to its owner's hand. So if they happen to kill your creature or blow up Rancor, you're gonna get it back. Griff's Boon gives +1/+0 and flying. Unlike Rancor, it doesn't go back to your hand, but it does just let you cast it straight from the graveyard for 4 mana. It's also worth mentioning some removal spells like Sheltered by Ghost or Buried in the Garden. When Sheltered by Ghost enters, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Sheltered by Ghost leaves the battlefield. It also gives enchanted creature +1/+0 and has lifelink and ward 2, so it's gonna protect the creature and make sure whatever you're hitting with Sheltered by Ghosts remains gone. When Buried in the Garden enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent you don't control until Buried in the Garden leaves the battlefield. Whenever enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional mana of any color. So the great thing about Buried in the Garden is that since it enchants a land, it's very unlikely for them to remove your land. Land removal just kind of doesn't exist for the most part in Commander, so yeah, the thing you're gonna hit is gonna stay exiled until they have enchantment removal for Buried in the Garden. We've got our creatures and our auras, but there's always ways we can support our deck by making it a little more versatile and a little more deep. Now, I do enjoy sprinkling just a little bit of salty plays throughout my decks, and this deck unfortunately doesn't have this salty play, but I needed to talk about it, and that is the Orb interaction. Static Orb, Winter Moon, and Winter Orb all have abilities that limit how much we can untap our stuff. But that doesn't matter to Preston, no. As long as he's able to attack, he gets to untap everything that is enchanted. And since he lays down a settlement every time combat goes, he's able to really untap lands a lot easier than our opponents. I did not include the orbs in my deck list, but it was a close thing. Anyway, one of the best support cards is going to be Idyllic Tutor. It's just going to grab any enchantment that you need when you need it. It's going to be the best tutor in the situation. You can use Open the Armory if you want, but I do like the versatility of Idyllic Tutor. A Tale for the Ages and Boon of the Spirit Realm are going to be enchantments that give us buffs for our enchanted creatures. The Tale gives a straightforward +2/+2, whereas the Boon gives a +1/+1 for each blessing counter on it. You get a blessing counter whenever a enchantment enters, so that is really fantastic because every combat it's going to get a plus with our commander out, and then things like Calyx can actually copy the boon and increase the blessings that way. And protecting our stuff is still very important, so we have Silkguard and Sterling Grove to help us protect our auras once they're down.
You're not Preston Garvey.
Say what, man?
You really need to get a better overcoat. And you forgot to pin up the hat. Still, not bad. Not bad at all.
Oh, shit.
Unlike Preston's Imposter, we've got some cool replacements that will still get the job done. Idyllic Tutor's gonna get cut in favor of Mesa Enchantress. My motto with tutors is you can always cut them for better cards. In this case, the Enchantress gives us a consistent draw engine. I didn't talk about Summon Knights of the Realm because I didn't want to give it its own segment, but it's really good, and you should run it in enchantment decks. Anyway, Summon Knights of the Realm is gonna get cut for Celestial Archon. Celestial Archon gives us another option and a big beater that also gives a nice buff to a specific creature if you bestow it. Calyx, Guided by Fate, gets cut for Ghostblade Eidolon. Ghostblade Eidolon is one of the underrated Eidolons, I feel, because the double strike is going to be very significant. As a 3-mana 1/1 double striker, it's not bad. It can be a aura magnet, you can put lots of stuff on it, and then you can also, of course, bestow it if you choose. Overlord of the Hotwoods is one of the best ramp spells that we've got in the deck. It's also like $10, so we're going to cut it for Greater Tanuki, which can channel to get a basic onto the battlefield, or just be a 6/5 trampler if we want it to be. And the Kadama of the West Tree is also amazing in this deck because it's going to give all of our enchanted creatures trample, and then when they hit, they get to go and get a basic land and put it onto the battlefield. Real great way to ramp. Yeah, that's really nice and all. It's also a little pricey, so we're going to cut it in favor of Jukai Naturalist. Jukai Naturalist is a 2-mana 2/2 with lifelink that reduces the cost of our enchantments by 1. Alright, that's gonna be it for Preston. I really like him because I feel like he's unique when it comes to all of the aura-based commanders that you see out there, all of the enchantresses that are there. Definitely nice. At least I didn't make any jokes about him having something new for you. Ah, yeah, I could have. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the deck, and I'll catch y'all next time. The hell? What the fuck? Who straps a mine to a mole rat?